I don't. Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests bring you leading-edge astrology conversations through a journey of soul growth patterns connecting astrology's energetic cycles. Get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hi, once again, this is Talk Cosmos, Leading Edge Conversations, and today is October 17, 2021, and the Cosmic Collaboration panel will be discussing tonight a subject about Mars, the planet Mars, the guardian. Mars is one of our personal planets. It's right exterior on the exterior orbital side, you might say, between us and the sun. In other words, Earth is here, as we know. It's on the exterior side. I may not be saying that very well, but the interior planets would be Venus and Mercury. Mars, it represents our actions. It separates us from the whole to become individuated. It's extremely important of values. It makes we have choices with Mars, and it initiates us to defend our vital causes on a personal level and on and leading forward, because people will join together or follow someone that's leading. It is a very personally directed sign with bold courage, and it discovers pathways that are pioneering ahead. So Mars entered Libra in the middle of last month in September, just before the equinox, which is always when the sun enters the sign of Libra. But interestingly, Mars, and because it takes 2 years for Mars to orbit around in its path around the sun, but this month it has been closely conjunct, that's the astrological word, within a few degrees or exact of the sun all month. So it is really, that's our conversation. What does this mean? Which I think we can all experience quite a few powerful events on a mundane subject, but we're also going to begin really on the personal, because it is a personal planet. Okay, we are ready for Talk Cosmos Cosmic Collaboration panel. Thank you.
Investigating the deeper archetypal questions related to understanding astrological energetic aspects for growth patterns to unify mind, body, spirit, and emotions, this is your Cosmic Collaboration panel.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, host of Talk Cosmos, an evolutionary astrologer and consultant, plus a certified color energy coach. I explore creative expression as an artist, a musician, and write abundantly, stories to poetry. I love investigating mythology's language, philosophizing eternity, and I'm a perpetual student of life, seeing oneness of body, spirit of people, animals, and nature.
I'm Suzie Kerr, Wright, astrologer, certified psychic medium, tarot reader, life coach, and Reiki master. I love to bring what I call cosmic common sense to the world through private sessions as well as all types of media. My work has been published in Chewy.com, Brides Magazine, Good Housekeeping, Cosmopolitan, Elle, Bustle, and more. And I'm a regular guest on Today in Nashville. I've had my own radio shows, and I was the weekly on-air astrologer for WSCA-FM. And I love to teach astrology and psychic development.
And I'm Amanda Pierce, a soul-centered astrologer, astrological consultant, and empowerment-based meditation teacher. I have a BA in psychology, I'm a wellness enthusiast with a passion for healthy eating, and I enjoy creating new realities and shifting old paradigms.
And like the Sufi poet Rumi says, you are the entire ocean in a drop.
Yes. Oh boy. And that ocean part, I will just say this right off the bat, because it's not a subject really to bring up, except that we've been wondering, some of the questions were, is what do we want to defend? What are the causes, which we'll get into later, because that's just part of the whole energy of it. But I was reading, trying to find out some information. And just this week, once again, about the climate, do you know that every second, the equivalent of the heat, because I am thinking of Mars as kind of a fiery, even though it's in Libra right now, that's air, but that if you were to drop a Hiroshima bomb, the heat equivalent, 5 of them every second, that's what's happening to the climate. It's like, holy criminy, that's pretty powerful. So in other words, what does that mean? That only means that if they're in this whole debate about climate change, or climate in itself, is how are we understanding it? Because the world, except for the United States, all measures it in Celsius ever since the French Revolution. And metric system, although here in the United States, we haven't quite made that change, and we're still talking in Fahrenheit, and there's quite a gap between those. So if you say 1.5 to 2 degrees in Celsius, which uses their base as 0, and Fahrenheit, which uses their base as 32 for freezing, there's a big gap, meaning potentially this change could be like 3 degrees going into 4, even 8 as it goes ahead, meaning where we live could be very uncomfortable. So Sierra Club is one of them that I was noticing, was saying, you know what, maybe if we begin to understand, and this is an action, right? That's why I'm bringing this up for folks. It's just to realize so many ways in our life is things that people want to defend or cause, is making that choice of how to do the action. And especially with Mars and Libra right now, we're not thinking just about ourselves, but how about ourselves and others. So that's one idea. It was pretty shocking as a fact. It was like, holy gosh, don't know what else to say. Any rate, hi Amanda, and hi Suzie. And
hello.
Yes, so we're talking about Mars right now, and it happens to be in Libra. If one of you have, I mean, I could go on, but I'd like to hear just a thought right there from somebody that you have on that subject.
Well, Mars is definitely not at its happiest in Libra. It's in detriment, and which is usually a very uncomfortable place for it. So it has trouble taking that forward action, and just the making simple actions that it has so much ease with. It becomes a little more of a balancing act when it's in Libra.
It is true. Libra is about between the extremes, finding balance and harmony, which is a tall order, very rarely accomplished, actually. So Mars, it likes to not think, but just do. It's a doer. It's pre-verbal energy in its natural sense. It has a difficult time trying to outwit.
It's really pushing us to find better balance in our lives. And so it's in Libra, it's like, how do you find ease and grace with action? And moving forward without ease and grace is a little more challenging at this time. So we're all being given that gift of that challenge so that we can look at it and see how we can shift our world a bit.
And I will add too, that because the planets are beginning to turn direct, last week on the 6th, Pluto turned direct. Then Saturn just turned direct, I think on the 11th. And tomorrow, both Mercury and Jupiter are turning direct. So I think Liz in Moonbeam team was saying it's like white water. It's like you're turning the boat around and there's just a bunch of water. And we're like, it's pretty messy. So
I love that analogy. That's great.
Yeah, because it's true. Libra is an air sign, and it can get so cerebral. I totally understand it. But the fact is, Mars is a visceral energy. It wants action. It is saying, enough of that. We're in the white water. Just make your choice and do something. And yes, Suzie, you had some thoughts, maybe.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, Mars in Libra and, fire and air, right? And, think about how air can whip up fire. It can either blow it out or it can whip it up into a frenzy, and feed it and sustain it. And so I was just kind of thinking about that, that combination of energies and what that would feel like in human terms. It's kind of like there's a lot of stuff that seems to be for people in general, like really blowing up really, really fast and furious, but then like just going out. Like it's just weird combination of things. And think about some of the clients that I've been talking to this week, and how these situations seem so dire in the moment. There's a lot of emergency calls, and although I don't do, there's no such thing as an emergency psychic reading. Sorry, there just isn't. But I'm getting these calls, but then and then by the time you get back to them, it's, oh no, everything's okay. It's like,
Very
and it's all
interesting.
relationship stuff, like I've been saying, pretty steadily since 2020, that the majority of the calls that I'm getting in the sessions that I'm doing are related to like your personal growth and career, like, your path, what people wanted to do with their lives, as opposed to going into the office every day, starting their own businesses, or, doing their artwork or whatever it is, And sorry, somebody's lighting up fireworks out there. And speaking of Mars, but yeah, now it's becoming about the relationships, right? Mars in Libra, and this, these sudden flare-ups, and then just dies down. So it's been very interesting to watch how clients follow those progressions. Yeah,
That's vital, and absolutely that keys us into this whole idea about relationship, because of self with others. And also, in my estimation, just a few Facebook observations of people of astrologers that I value, it made me realize, because I don't follow Facebook very much, I confess, it's very rare, but I was posting for this event, and so I do notice a few things, that relationship with self and others seems to really, the yearning, and this might be partly because we're in COVID, where so many of our systems of relationships have broken down, and we're rebuilding them, is that we're yearning for a really deep connection. We're yearning for a more authentic self of values, and how we're exchanging with people. So that's an interesting thought. If maybe the spark that initiated this crisis or anger, whatever it was, this cause for action that they reached out, may have later, through the internal process of thinking, realized that maybe it wasn't so valuable, and maybe it's a matter of letting go and I don't know. I mean, that's where I think generally everybody's going is. Yes. Did that make sense to both of you?
Mars is, it's, as much as it's the guardian of what we really, how we get what we want, right? How we go after what we want. There's a constantly changing, there's just a constantly changing energy around that. And it's like, you could take it to any level. You could talk about our government taking away our rights. You could talk about, people fighting for their children, and, all of the things that are going on like that. It's like, there seems to be like all of these different attempts, and then there's this whole slew of people that are going, well, this isn't what I signed up for, but I don't know what it would look like if I spoke out. I don't know what's going to happen to me. What will other people think if I speak my truth, or if I fight for what I want? And
air sign.
Yeah. Good. And so, because Libra cares about what other people think, and so things are becoming a little bit more, there was a point there, I feel, where all this energy was kind of, and I don't know if it had to do, with the pattern of Mars traveling so closely to the sun right now, but it's almost like, people get to a point where, a big part of this, if I can go on, if you don't mind me going
No,
on.
please. No, we're listening.
I had
It's
more to
good.
say than I thought I would today. But here's the thing, it's there's such a huge segment of the population that feels like nobody's hearing them. And so and if you think about, like, what is Libra, Libra, I mean, in a generalization, they want everyone to like them, right? And so with the Mars combination, I think some people have gotten to the point where they just, like, after you try so hard to get your point across, or to be heard, or to be understood, and you're fighting and you're trying to, use that warrior but guardian energy to protect yourself and your family, you just shut down. At some point you just shut down, and then it becomes almost passive aggressive the way you.
Good point. And I'll add that immediately I think of the cardinal cross, because Cancer will shut down. That's one of, and it opposes, it's a cardinal sign too. All these, Libra is a cardinal sign, Aries is a cardinal sign, Cancer and Capricorn. And that's quite an effect, because as we know with that's very true with Martian, if it can get passive aggressive, what actions are, because
Libra,
really
yeah.
It gets into that question that we were asking: what is it that we want to defend, and to what risk? Because there's always a risk when you step out, separating yourself from the multitudes. And right now there's a lot of confusion about what the multitudes are, and I believe it's partly because of the natural breakdown, COVID, of needing to restrict a lot of actions, which has just, the consequences have just, because one action always develops a consequence, right? Cause and effect. And so that seems to be a big factor here.
Well, and one of the things that I think of, Suzie, from what you just said, is there's a need to try and learn to dance together. Like Libra, that's a very social way of managing Mars in Libra, dancing together instead of competing or trying to bash our heads against the wall, trying to get people to understand things. There's just this really precise diplomacy that comes with Libra, and trying to figure out how to work that is one of the challenges of Mars in Libra.
Precise diplomacy.
Totally.
This is great.
Well, if you think about, and that's it right there, because what's the crux of, human nature? Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be recognized. Everybody wants to be acknowledged, right? And so, that's the root of everything. I used to hear this from a minister all the time, is everything that we do is either of love or a cry for love. And if you look at it and there's your Libra sides right there, is it of love or is it a cry for love? Right. And so, but yeah, this whole spin up and the flames that keep shooting up, in this world. Well, here's today's disaster, and here's tomorrow's disaster, and it's this intense pressure to keep people in fear and pitted against each other. And so and it's like, here's another thing to worry about, here's another thing you should be scared of. Oh, you're not going to have Christmas. It's like, what?
Well,
and so there's but it spins up and then it flames out. It shoots up and then it dies out. And so meanwhile, everybody's just trying to scramble to figure out like how to do that dance, how to be in touch with their family, how to live their lives like, to the best of their ability. Every place in this world right now, there's some places completely, locked down, and other places that are completely open. And so there's no, what is that common ground? That to find that would be the perfect job for Mars as the guardian.
It seems what comes to mind again is this grand cross, because it is true. Tying this together, I'm thinking that people have defended their family. People have defended their job. That's 4th house, 10th house, Cancer, Capricorn. And from the self, oneself, one's own action. We're talking totally 7th house, the other, and we're talking Libra of this balancing act. But greater than that, I think really a lot of this is that who is the other, and how it goes back to, I'm remembering with what you're saying, Amanda, tying both of these is like, I think that's what's required of us, is that it's not as isolated as we may have lived earlier. Our interactions are needing to coordinate with a larger group of people, and it's more voices or wanting to be heard, and they have the potentiality of being heard. And there is conflict if we continue to need to think of them just as our own needs. And we can see this over and over in so many different ways on different scales of identities, because Mars, self is, in its natural sense, is about your identity. It's becoming a new identity through your actions. But here, who is the other self? And what it really gets down to is what the needs are, that so much Cancer, because it may not just be your own family, your own neighborhood. It could be that what one state needs to do in relationship with another state, or one city with connection with, it's complex because the system is broken down. It's when I say broken down, in 2020, we had an epidemic, however one interprets it. But as a result, people stopped working at their jobs. The nodes were in Cancer. They went home. And now we're working with communicating and in our environment. Next year, January, it's going to be survival and the exchange of resources. Because once you break down just any system, rebuilding takes a lot of work. And so we have the thought of, are we rebuilding on the basis of what we knew, which has some sense, but maybe it didn't all work. Maybe this is a time to regroup. And
you're talking perfectly about the Pluto and Capricorn cycle. I mean, breaking down the systems that aren't working, and rebuilding something that's going to work better for us.
Should I bring up, we have a few minutes, I can bring up the chart, because it was interesting. I mean, we can show where, here, let's see if I can do this correctly. Oh, I want to share. That's what I want to do. Share screen. Okay. Share. What's happening? Why isn't it sharing? Oh, darn it. Okay, let's do it again.
This
Share.
is so Martian. I thought that was fireworks. It's actually somebody shooting in their yard.
Oh my gosh.
We live in the country. Yeah. When I first moved out here, being the city girl, anytime I heard a gunshot, I was calling the police, and they were like, "It's just your neighbors." Now I shoot, and it's like, oh, okay. I want to go over and ask them how they set up their target in their backyard.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's amazing how in one year, because I decided I was going to, learn how to protect myself in 2020. And in 1 year now I'm like, hey, what do you got?
Well,
and that's such a perfect example of but also rolling with the nodes and trying something new, like the Gemini aspect, trying something new and shifting like how you're doing things and thinking about things. And so it totally shifted how you hear a gunshot now.
Oh, I was terrified. The first time I took a lesson, I was like this, and the guy put it in my hand and held my hand, and I was like, I can't do this. And then a friend of mine shoots, and she took me to, and so very, very cool. Mars. It's very interesting, but so Mars is definitely, I'm Scorpio, so Mars is. Any activation to Mars is pretty big to me. Yeah.
So you had the chart up, but now it's gone.
Yeah. Well, I did, and that's fine. We didn't have a lot of time, and actually, what I was trying to do was pull up and we can pull it up afterwards when we have a little more time before the half hour. But the new moon in Libra and the full, which was on the 6th, a week ago, and the next week, which will be the 20th for the full moon in Aries, you could see that Mars has been either exactly conjunct, which it is right about now, or it has been no further than 5 degrees and only for a few days. Basically, it's been 1 to 2 degrees right next door. But interestingly, if we just in astrology go back to when the last new moon in Aries was, which was March, and I didn't pull that up. I pulled up February and by mistake. That's why I put it down. That Mars was trine in support of this Mars. So when you were talking, Suzie, about earlier, but the fact is that those actions that we started in March at the last the spring equinox are things that we are trying to continue with. And so it is, but but since then there's been so much, astrologically speaking, retrograde going inward and reworking the past. And so now, as they're beginning to open up, we have new information. And that's where, again, it's so interesting to think that Mars has stayed with the sun of our ego, of our will, of what actions. So when we come back at the half hour, let's talk about some of those questions where we were saying, what do we want to defend and to what causes? I mean, we've been talking about it, but we can continue. Yes.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thank you to our audience. Come back for Leading Edge Conversations with Amanda Pierce and Suzie Kerr Wright and myself, Sue Rose Minahan. October 17 with Mars the Guardian. How is Mars the Guardian? We'll really focus on that. Okay. Thank you.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the Yang period of Libra, ruled dually by Venus. By leaving the lower hemisphere of the self, the energy of Libra enters the arena where the completed self meets the other than self to form a relationship based on partnership. As a cardinal air sign on the descendant angle, represented by the equinox of equal light, Libra's energy learns through comparison and relationships, with the intention to integrate duality and polarities.
Old world travelers never began a journey without a compass. And today, smart travelers won't leave home without a map or GPS to navigate the journey ahead. But when it comes to your journey through life, how do you get your guidance? By aligning numerology and astrology's wisdom. Combining numerology with astrology offers a great spectrum of insightful meaning for your personal yearly, monthly, and daily numbers. And to help you navigate these numbers to discover your best daily route, numerologist Liz Luchette, along with Gloria Riley, an Egyptian numerologist, and intuitive consultant Jenny L. Sinclair, have co-authored the book Gateways to Change 2018 and Beyond, Keys to Navigating the Seas of Life Using Numerology and Astrology. In addition to the book, Liz is also hosting a Gateways to Change workshop this fall, which complements the book to guide you to your life's journey and explore how to use the resources offered in the book. Copies of the Gateways to Change are included in the registration fee. The Gateways to Change book is now available to order on Amazon. And to register for the workshop, you can contact Liz at her website, alightpath.com, or send her an email at Liz, L-I-Z, Muschett, M-U-S-C-H-E-T-T, @gmail.com. Let Liz be your compass as you continue your journey here on Earth.
Talk Cosmos brings you leading-edge astrological conversations with hour-long programs each week on KKNW. The show goes live every Sunday from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on Facebook and YouTube, along with daily chats throughout the week on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel. While you're there, make sure you click like and subscribe buttons so you can get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or, if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. So, grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
Hello, astrologers. This is Carlos Galvan. I am spirituality and astrology astrologer from Mexico, and you're listening to Talk Cosmos on Alternative Talk, 11:50 a.m., where we understand how to implement our free will through the cosmos.
Be sure to support the sponsors of your favorite shows on Alternative Talk 1150.
Hello, we're back again, and it is October 17th, just to let people know, and this is Cosmic Collaboration Panel. Do subscribe. You can now just go to on YouTube, go to Talk Cosmos. We have enough people that it's easy. It's easy now. So we're talking about Mars, the guardian. Now we know Mars is the warrior, yes, but it's the guardian. And that'll start, and we'll open up some of those charts that we talked about, because this month, Mars, our planet of action, is right close with our identity, our eagle, the sun. And the guardian, it's like, I was just reading a note about letting your guard down, right? So what is the guard? What are we guarding? And that, of course, can become a sense of awareness. Yeah, if anybody has thoughts. Meanwhile, I'll pull up the new moon, okay? Or not. Should we start with the new moon, I think?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
I just love the idea of Mars as the guardian, because we don't typically think of Mars in that way. Mars, we typically think of as going out and getting things done for us and fulfilling what we want. But it's doing what or it's going and getting what Venus wants. Venus is our wants, and Mars goes and gets it. And here, as the guardian, it's like Mars is protecting what we already have and what we still value. It's that Venus part that we want to keep. We've got it, so let's protect it and keep it and defend it. So it's a different kind of way of looking at Mars, but still just as applicable.
I like that. And that's a big problem. Just like what Suzie, you were mentioning, is that, and this is what I was bringing out, is that what we have had, and I find that right here, I've relocated, and I've been struggling a lot with trying to figure out, I'm in an ideal place, right? Hawaii. Everybody goes, oh my God.
Yeah, no complaining. You can't complain.
Well, that's what people think. But the fact is that on a personal level, what is it that one is that's missing? Mm-hmm. And I think it all has to do with relationships, going back to that word that we've had. And that is huge. It's our relationships with what? It's relationship with yourself, with the world that we're familiar with our friends. Yes, we have Zoom, and I've really, I rely on Zoom. I have my spouse, thankfully. I have someone that I daily can share a little bit of life with. It's still independent. We're both independent in that, but it's like the misconnection, maybe relocating with what had been, but where I had been would never have been the same either. So so in other words, tying that in just as a thought was relationships and defending And that's where the crux gets, like, how much can you guard to protect what had been, when maybe some of those things weren't in the best interest anyway. Maybe there were complaints that we just stuffed, right? I mean, that gets back to that Libra idea that we're not risking to upset the apple cart. And so we go passive aggressive and build resentment or whatever. You know, it's
I think that's really up for us. Like, what are the values that we're wanting to keep right now, and what do we want to keep fighting for? So and if you look at this new moon, you can see that we obviously have Mars in Libra, which is in detriment, and it is reporting to Venus, who is also in detriment in Scorpio, and they're in a mutual reception. So they're kind of reporting back to each other, and they're like looping, but neither one is in a strong placement at all right now. They're each trying to do the other's job, or they're trying to do their job with the other's tools, is what it feels like. And so there's kind of like we're being stretched to do things totally awkward. We're being stretched to do things we've never done before. We don't know how to do them, and trying to find them with some balance. And I think that question comes up again, what are you fighting for? Or where are you fighting for things that no longer line up with your values?
And the fact go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, tagging onto that too, there's that whole concept of, with the division, with them having us so divided, one camp is getting this information, the other camp is getting this information. It's like, where can you fit in and be safe speaking your mind? Is that search, that fight for that. It's like, I want to find, I've got to find my people. I've got to find my people. There's that whole element to it as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. Just looking at this chart, and for those people that can't see it and those people that do, we're talking about the new moon in Libra at 13.5 degrees, which is a cardinal sign close to the middle. So if you have anything in a cardinal sign, it's quite activated. And Mars is conjunct within 0.5 degree. It's like right there. They're all talking the same language, they think, but 13. They need to. Yeah.
Yeah. And retrograde, let's not forget Mercury's retrograde.
It was, but wait a minute. Let me get my thought here. Whatever. Oh, okay. About values, because that introduces the other energy of Uranus in Taurus also being looking to its guide, as I call it. It's a expository guide, because every sign has a rulership, and that is Venus again. So Venus, and it's in values, resources and values and money, and it wants authenticity. When it comes to Uranus, it wants things that are the real deal. So you have that energy along with the Saturnian in Aquarius, because that Aquarius definitely wants authenticity. So yes, I think in this struggle that we're doing, trying to recapture the old paradigm, which ain't happening. It's not there. And that's a good thing. It's chaos gives us a chance to refocus on getting new patterns together. It's painful though. I think all loss, and that's another part of this, loss takes time to let go of what we've been attached to. There's many dynamics.
And anywhere where Uranus is being activated, it's trying to get us out of our attachments. And especially in Taurus. I mean, Taurus is so attached. And here in the new moon chart, Uranus is exactly quincunx to Mars. So it's looking to get us unhooked from how we habitually take action. But in the process of that, we can kind of feel unhinged a bit.
And we may have to explain what quincunx means, dear Amanda. And that's just 150
Nobody calls them in conjuncts anymore.
No. But
quincunx
even
in
that,
conjunct.
no, not everybody may know what any of that means, and it just means that the angle is such that it's hard for them to find common ground, and they really have to go to a larger perspective to find something that unifies a new direction. So I mean, I'm just trying to explain.
That's a great way of explaining it. It's
Okay.
it's hard to find that balance with there's the word again. Hard to find a balance with the quincunx. It's not it's always unsteady. There's an unsteadiness with it. And so with Uranus, I mean, there could have been sudden issues that came up relating to Mars, like issues with health or your body or just how you're relating to others.
If
Self-worth.
okay, can everybody see this? I want to animate this. Tell me if you can. Now, is that I
see a black screen.
Did? Oh, rats.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to stop sharing and do it again. Darn it. This may not work. I just stopped sharing. Okay, because
I was going to say, while you're doing that too, the other thing that that caught me was the decans too. This is, if you think about it, the third decan of Aries and the third decan of Libra, it's it's like a Jupiter Mercury thing going on. So there's a lot of processing and thinking and trying to grasp the big picture, or figure out the future, what's going to happen. But it's also about, it's like that as above, so below, digging deep, it's like you were talking about.
Yeah,
really,
it's this new moon cycle or this lunar cycle. It's in my opinion, it's a bit more important than some of the others because
I agree.
We've got the new moon, we've got the full moon. Sandwiched in between them is the new Mars sun cycle. So we're starting a new synodic cycle with Mars, and so that's really big. We're kind of,
it is.
The new moon is like planting a seed for us to start this new cycle that did happen on October 7th.
And all months. Yeah. So here, let's jump here. Did you see this? On the full moon, which will happen next week on the 20th. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So in other words, Mars is still, now by now, Mars is a few more degrees. I mean, if you look at it, it's about 3.5 degrees away from the sun. So it's not, but that's still conjunct as far as
and this was the decan I was talking about, by the way. Not
okay. Yeah. And decans for people is like every 10 degrees. So it's the first 10, the second 10, the third 10, and they all have their added emphasis as part of astrology. So here at 23 degrees, we could say that the Mars is still applying. Well, it may not reach, they've already reached, I think the sun is moving faster at this point because the sun goes once a year, anyway, our orbit, but Mars takes 2 years. So so it's just separating, but still it's in close connection with the actions. So I don't think there's anything more to be said. Unless somebody has something to say, we'll drop that away and we'll just start talking.
I'll just mention with the new Mars synodic cycle, it's Mars in Libra. And so this is our Mars journey through November 2023 is going to be about this Libra energy. And so this is this new moon, full moon. This is big stuff. The stuff that's coming up right now is we're seeding it for that whole cycle. And so it's quite important for us to figure out how to get that balance. And when I think about Mars as the guardian, it's like, it's wanting to guard our harmony and our balance in our lives, where there's just Amanda, we've been missing that so much,
Yeah.
It's been pretty crazy.
Well, it's how fast. And that brings to my attention a very important factor of Venus. I now have the chart for this full moon coming up, but remembering that in the new moon, the seed energy, as we've agreed, with Mars in a synodic, that means a meeting of the sun, of any two planets, but here with the sun, moon, and Mars, uh, is that Venus, its ruler, was in Scorpio, but late Scorpio, it was 28 degrees. It quickly went into Venus. Now, and this might be why, Suzie, so many people are coming to you. Venus in Sag is all about, I have something to say and I want to be heard.
Mhm.
So, at first, maybe they waited a little bit. It was very deep and it was a crisis, but then immediately people want to speak. So here we have, as I say, Venus at 14 degrees, which Philip Sedgwick calls the great attractor, which I had to look up. And that means that energy out there in space is a huge, great big energy of, I don't even know what to say, all of it, where the idea of the meaningfulness of it is that anything that you want can come into fruition depending on how much energy you put into it, which is pretty much what we know about life anyway. But here
Well,
it
yeah,
is.
Venus in Sag is a bit stronger than Venus in Scorpio. And not only has it moved into a stronger sign, it's now out of bounds. So Venus went out of bounds on October 9th. So it will be out of bounds for this full moon. And out of bounds planets, they break the rules, and they're technically escaping the physical space dominated by the gravity of the sun. So they don't have to follow all the rules. And so here we've got this Venus is just a lot freer. Sag is already a freedom-loving sign. And it's now managing the Mars energy as well. And not only that, Venus is in the new moon chart, Mars was quincunx Uranus. The full moon chart, Venus is quincunx Uranus. So we're just kind of getting a big shakeup from Uranus in this lunar cycle. And it's again trying to unhook us, or it's going to feel like unhinging us from our any values that aren't serving us anymore, that are kind of entrenched, that we've just kind of been hanging on to.
Yeah. And the rules are changing. I'm going to stop sharing this. Is that okay with both of you? Or Suzie,
Sure.
did you have something?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So we'll go back. It's all a lot of compassion. That's what comes to mind. I think if we're going to use Mars as the guardian in our relationships, it starts with oneself, and to recognize that what do we have control over, and to feel empowered about that, because I think despite any religious ideas that people have, all of the ideas that find guidance through their source. For myself, I have energetic sources. And so, in other words, it's like it's a collaboration, forging a new destiny, one could say, with what values are really that to protect and understand and to experience with people. And it does mean that some relationships are going to fall away, that what we were using with as a familiar base, thinking of that cardinal square with Cancer that we nurtured and received nurturing from, is no longer satisfying those values that we want to experience and need to experience. And it may not involve the same people, the others,
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Suzie.
No, go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, I love what you said, like, who are the others? It's so funny because we talk about guardian. I'm like, what is coming up for me around guardian? Okay. And then I started thinking like guard dog, right? So what is a guard dog? You have a German Shepherd in your house, and he's going to like bark at anything that comes to that gate, right? He's going to bark at the mailman. He's going to bark at the delivery people. He's going to bark at everything. But then once he gets to know them, he can be their best friend.
Right.
And it's like, and so it's like that. I don't know. That's just what came to mind. It's like it's like they're on alert. It's almost like everybody's on alert. Who's coming to take my stuff? Who's coming to take my world? Who's coming to mess up my freedom? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? And nobody really knows like who it is. Like it's like the dog doesn't know. It's just a figure or some noise outside, and so I think it's really I love what you said about the others, because it's like maybe that's part of the quest, is like, let's find out who the others really are, because I'll tell you, in my world, others are not who I think they are. And and I am not what others think I am. And so, there has to be an unwinding, to get to that balance. I really hope that this does bring in that energy of, let's figure out who we are first and figure out who's pulling the strings and keeping us divided.
And the big idea I just thought of as a solution is trying to find common ground to protect and defend. There is something that matters to all of us, like, just not to throw in, but like the whistleblower with Facebook, it came out to one of the big factors, because I happened to see some of it on TV. We were trying to find something else and wanted to see, and they were concerned about the children, everybody cares about children, no matter what party you're attached to, Republican Party, or Democrat or Independent, whatever. So it's like this common ground, this way to find a common need. And in our communities, I know that with Detroit, I remember they were experiencing so many horrible things, maybe in the last 10 years, but there were individuals on a block that one woman started a painting project. Let's take this house and we'll paint it. And they did. And then another person said, let's take this land and make it a garden for everybody. And they did. And the city has slowly been shifting. But the point is, it's coming, whether it's like trying to go to the beaches down in Texas and help them with or Florida with all the oil spill, or something that binds us together.
Yeah. And I think that's great energy, for Mars and Libra. I mean, Mars is, you have more energy to put towards things. And so when it's in Libra, it's like, let's figure out who this other person is. Like, this is about one-on-one relationships and getting to know somebody.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I've started, challenging people that want to just kind of troll on my posts or things like that to conversations. Let's get on Zoom. Let's chat.
That's so perfect. Yeah.
And it's not really a challenge. Maybe I should reframe that, because I did lose one friend over that. He just would not talk to me, but he just.
And I like it because it's Mars. It's like, Mars is like challenging energy, but let's challenge so that we can be at peace together.
Mm-hmm.
There was
remember that we're people. Remember that we're all people. We are not what they want us to think we are.
Exactly.
This side versus this side.
And I'm thinking two examples. One is where Democrats and Republicans got together. Again, it was like a year ago that I saw this. And I thought, what brave people, because it was such a mix of people, men, women, ages, everything, ethnicity, the whole 9 yards. And this had been on, maybe it was 60 Minutes or something like that. And it took them time. And at first they were very protective, but gradually really got to understand who the other person was. That was one example. But I'm thinking, like, right now with transportation, like going back to the Christmas bit, like we won't have Christmas. Well, I know that in England, they're also having a huge problem with transportation. Come to find out, because, do I need to care? But it is like, why is this happening? Is that a lot of the drivers were from the European Union and didn't have new regulations. They couldn't go to England now that they'd gotten out of it. Well, here, it's like, what is the problem? I often wonder, maybe if we just understood more, if it's drivers, like, why aren't there more drivers? Is it because the tests aren't being given to more people? I mean, aren't people needing jobs? Didn't some people lose jobs? I mean, there's so many questions. If we could expand the conversation and try to understand more, which I know, oh boy, Yeah, because it seems like if there's tests involved, because you have to get classified in order to be a driver. And so if it's a matter of getting things off the boats outside of Los Angeles onto the truck so they can get across the nation, what's the deal?
Yeah. Well, I heard somebody, a trucker, talking about it. He said the drivers are there. It's the regulations that they can't keep up with. So,
well.
Yeah. But again, Mars, rules. You got to we got to enforce the rules.
That's a cardinal. Yes,
Yep.
It is. Well, I think communication while the nodes are here. We are at the end. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Suzie. Thank you for Cosmic Collaboration.
Thank you
And
both.
do subscribe, and blessings to everybody on your path of initiations, right?
Path of balance.
Laughter, maybe that. Okay.
That wouldn't hurt.
Yeah. Never hurts.
Thank you for joining us on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests connect soul growth patterns with the energetic cycles of astrology. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.